Memorization, I love, I keep saying this, I would say it every seminar, every year, but every year has been my favorite year. I can't say that about Challenge 4 because I didn't get to go to Challenge 4 this year. I was able to, I had the opportunity to sit through Challenge 1, 2, and 3 with Elijah. And the kids really liked me because I was their essentials tutor, so it really wasn't strange that I was in there. They really liked me sitting as much as I could. But Challenge 4, my husband said, you know, Elijah might need to go to class on his own without your help, just maybe just to see if he can do that, because he'll be doing that in college. So I didn't get to go to Challenge 4. But one of the fun things that happened here in Challenge 3, so Elijah being in Challenge 3 being in CC since he was in 6th grade, he has been standing up in front of these kids, reading papers, all of those things, presentations, debates. They were just used to hearing his voice, and unfortunately they sat through him. He is the most monotone speaker. He does not recognize punctuation when he's reading papers. He just wants to get up and get down because he cares nothing about performing. He's going to read his paper, and it's a well-written paper, but he doesn't really care, you know, about presenting it well. So I had to give up on that a little bit because I would always say, you need to put inflection, you need to, you know, make it dramatic. These poor kids are listening to just the most boring thing. So this year, so now we're in Challenge 3, so you can count up the years, how long it took. But this year they have to study a 5-minute speech from any point in history that they were studying in Patriots' History of the World, which is what they use for history. It's about this thick. And he decided to memorize the JFK Race to Space speech. And he decided that he was going to do the accent, and that he was going to do his hair and actually find a suit at Goodwill, and he was going to look like him. Because he found a video of it. So he watched him, and he memorized by listening. That's how he memorizes things, is listening. So all of his memory work, he would say it into the computer and then save it in iTunes and listen to it. So he listened to that speech over and over and over again of JFK saying it. He was practicing. I would hear him practice, and I mean, it was awesome. He could do it so well. And I was so excited because I saw some growth. I'm like, okay, well, you're going to, it's a skill. It's something going beyond what you're used to. And so I was excited that he was going to do it. He woke up that morning, he said, I'm not going to do it. I can't. I just am going to just read it. Or I'm going to just say it. I don't want to, you know, it's dumb. There's no reason. And I said, well, just take the suit with you just in case. I mean, I wasn't going to make him. But I said, you worked an awful hard. You know, a long time on this. The accent sounds great. You didn't miss a beat when you did it for me last night. I mean, it would be really good. I think they would be excited to hear it. He's like, well, I'll see. So he took it with him. And of course, he gets to class and he kind of let the cat out of the bag to the girls that were in the class. And there's 7 girls out of 12, you know, there. And they're like, oh, Elijah, do it with the accent. You know, they were so, and so he decided to do it. I'm like, well, why couldn't you do it if I said that? There's something about girls that motivate. So anyway, he got up there and it was amazing. It was wonderful. I mean, it was a 5-minute speech that he memorized, and it's not that big a deal in the scheme of things. But those kids recognized that that was very difficult for him to do, and they stood up and gave him a standing ovation. We're so excited that he had done that. And I was excited that he did something hard. That experience for him, that, you know, the consequence of his choice to do it was a very positive one. And I think it's something that gave him confidence throughout the rest of his couple of years having to get in front of people and be in an uncomfortable situation. I mean, who wants to sit in front of athletic directors of big schools? And he didn't miss a beat. I mean, he was nervous. He told me he was nervous before he would go. But he did it. And I can't help but think that that little thing that they did in Challenge 3 was something that helped him do that. So good consequences. You know, we don't always focus on the bad consequences. The good consequences of them doing hard things, they're able to do this in Challenge 3 and 4. The other piece here, Challenge 3 and especially Challenge 4, I'll just move forward. Leadership is our last year, and that's kind of the capstone level, okay? Our children, the students there, are leading 4 of the 6 seminars themselves. So that is kind of the epitome of education. When you can get up and teach someone else, that is rhetoric. That is being a true rhetorician. So our students, unfortunately, with 12 students in a class, Elijah didn't get to lead as much as he would have liked. Leading ended up being his favorite part of CC, getting up and preparing for the theology seminar or preparing for the literature discussion in Shakespeare. he loved doing that. He loved leading. And when you lead something, don't you prepare a little bit more? Don't you dive in a little bit deeper? And that's what those students do. In Challenge 3 and 4, so in Challenge 3, they lead 3 of the seminars, 2 or 3, and then in Challenge 4, they lead 4 of the seminars. So if you've ever considered directing, do 3 or 4, because they lead half of it. I'm totally kidding. You will have to do the work too, because you have to make sure they're leading correctly, right? I love this picture. This is on graduation day, so Elijah graduating with his class. These are his 2 friends that he had been in since foundations. And just, you know, the idea of when people ask me, you know, what about the socialization? You know, this is the kind of socialization I wanted for Elijah, to be around like-minded boys and girls, to know how to navigate female relationships healthy. I mean, they were friends, and you can generally say it wasn't, I mean, of course, you know, oh, I like you, and all that stuff happens, but for the scheme of things, they're all friends. And this last picture here, this is their, well, that's the credits we already looked at, and that's not that one, that's the picture. This is the graduating class. Now, some of them had moved away. 2 of the boys there were not in CC that final year. And that was their Challenge B director. That's not even their Challenge 4. But this is on graduation day, and I just love this verse. You know, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in truth. And when it's all said and done, you know, the fact that you know, they struggled with math, the fact that they didn't do all their Latin assignments, it really didn't matter. That I can know that my children know the truth, and that they know how to communicate the truth to others. Whether it's the truth about God's Word, or whether it's finding the truth in a piece of material that they have to study for economics in college, or, you know, they can search out the truth and they can find it. And it was through the skills that CC gave them. So that's Challenge. You know, that's the guiding themes of Challenge. I know there's lots of more I can't say the word, nuances with our Challenge program. So if you have questions, we can talk about that. We can talk about, I know in this area, we really are trying to grow our Challenge program. And we have a really solid foundations program here. We want kids to see the connections. Do you have that connections? Okay, we have it. So the idea here, we have to, the vision is, Challenge was created first. Okay, so Lee, when she wrote this whole thing, she did Challenge first because there wasn't a classical curriculum out there for her boys. And what every smart person does, they write their own, right? What every good mother does, she writes her own. Well, she saw many gaps in the knowledge that they had. Now, they did Challenge, but she was just, well, why don't you have that memorized? Why isn't that in your brain? Why? And it was just fundamental things. That's where Foundations was birthed. Okay, so everything that we do in Foundations and Essentials fills in the gaps for Challenge and makes Challenge the dynamic education that it is. And it's kind of like, I think somebody wrote an article, Courtney Sanford, some of you might know her in North Carolina, she wrote an article about getting all dressed for the prom and then not going to the dance. That's kind of what Foundations Essentials is. You know, you're getting all dressed, you're learning all these things, and then you don't get to participate in Challenge because we get scared, we get afraid that we're not going to do a good job, or that, you know, CC isn't going to be everything that my child needs for college, or whatever it is. CC might not be everything you need, and another program will. But if you've made a commitment through Foundations and Essentials, Challenge is the capstone. Challenge is where you get to see it all come to fruition. You get to see the fruit of all that labor of memorizing. So, you know, that being said, we're looking for directors, we're looking for students. We'll probably do several of these meetings. I would say we have a wealth of experience in North Carolina because it began here. So I could see anybody know Matt Bianco? You know that name? I would love for him to come in January, February, and do another one of these meetings, just to have a conversation about Challenge and any concerns people have. You know, you're going to have a lot of process through. If you have Foundations, you're probably thinking, okay, I'm not there yet, I can't go there yet. But we do want you to have a vision for what you're doing, so when you are weary doing all this memory work, that you kind of know, oh, but it's so that they can draw maps for memory in Challenge A, or that they can have a good debate, they can have knowledge and information that they need for a debate when they're in challenge 1 or 2. Okay, so there's a bigger purpose than just memorizing the Latin conjugations. All right, there's a bigger purpose, and that's what challenge is. Okay, so any questions, any comments? Go ahead.
You spoke about the transcript on page 75. So there are no grades reported for college, just that they've completed the course.
Well, do you see 4? So there are credits. Now you will, as a parent, assign grades. So, yeah, parents will give the grades, and our challenge guides come with rubric for grading papers. Assessment doesn't always have to be a written test, and so we're trying to encourage different ways to assess your kids other than just a written exam. Now, they will, if they're going to college, take the ACT, SAT, so that you need to have some prep. I will say that's probably one of the things that Lauren both struggled with in college, was multiple choice tests, believe it or not. Because I tested, okay, write a paragraph about this, tell me about this, which is a much more in-depth test than a multiple choice. But they quickly found out those professors on those tests, they're trying to trick you. And when Lauren would go to her science teacher and say, okay, well, this one could be right or this one could be right, he goes, well, one is more right than the other. You just have to, okay, well, I could tell you all about the photosynthesis of this and this and this, but the way it was worded, it was just confusing. So, be mindful of that. Put our kids in situations of taking different kinds of assessments if college is going to be what they do. If not, there are kids that get into college without taking the SAT and ACT. It's not necessarily a prerequisite, but most colleges are requiring that.
When did you start your kids taking the SAT
Lauren gave in 9th grade started taking the PSAT, so they took the PSAT and then it counts, in your junior year for the merit scholarship. But I just did it for practice because they weren't ever put in a situation to have to go do that, and the high school's real close to our house. So the SAT, Lauren took it twice. We took the SAT. Elijah, because of sports, he took the ACT and the SAT and took it several times because he was trying for a score. My 2 other ones, the second time they took it, they had high enough scores to go where they wanted to go, so they didn't want to take it.